In this video, I'll be giving you an easy guide to completing the main Easter egg quest on the brand new Black Ops 7 Zombies map, Ashes of the Damned. Completion of this egg will grant you the Ura operator skin for Dempsey, as well as a calling card and some XP. Before we get into it, be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you're new to the channel to stay up to date for everything Black Ops 7 Zombies. With that out of the way, let's get into it. So much like every other Easter egg in the history of COD Zombies, the first main step is going to be turning on the power and activating Pack-a-Punch. Now this part is guided, so I won't spend too much time going over this. However, I will say that you're only going to get 2 out of the 3 possible power locations turned on when you go to Pack-a-Punch, and you'll need all 3 of the generators active for the next step of the Necrofluid Gauntlet Wonder Weapon. If you start in Janus Towers and you go towards Blackwater Lake and then onto Ashwood, make sure you loop back around to Vandor Farm to get the power on over there. Now, you can kind of jump around and do multiple things at once during the course of this Easter egg, but for the sake of keeping this video nice, linear, and clean, we're going to start by building the new Necrofluid Gauntlet Wonder Weapon because you will need it for a couple different points during this Easter egg. Once you do have the power on at all 3 locations, open up the sheriff's office in Ashwood, and you'll notice that Klaus is sitting in a chair locked in this jail cell. You're going to have to free him, but first, you want to make your way back to Janus Towers, and by the gate heading towards Blackwater Lake, a Mecha Klaus will burst out of a crate after round 8. Sounds a little bit crazy there, but all you gotta do is progress to round 8, go up to this crate on the right side here, and then the Mecha Klaus will pop out, and once you kill him, he'll drop you a stabilizer chip that you'll then need to pick up and take back to the sheriff's office in order to activate Klaus. Once the panel in the jail cell says that it needs to be reset, you're gonna want to spam about 3 to 4 stun grenades at Klaus to restart him. Now, this can be a little bit finicky, so I'd really suggest just trying to bank it off the wall and then land it right on directly on Klaus, but if you do this correctly, there'll be some, like, electricity that sparks out of his head, he'll do a little dialogue cutscene, fly up into the sky, and he'll be on the main map. Once he lands on the map, you'll have a controller for him, just like you did all the way back in Mauerd or Toten. What you're going to want to do is hurry up and run all the way over to the Cosmodrome. You can either take Tessie or the jump pad if you've made it that far, and go to the bottom of the map. Over on the wall here, you'll notice there's a little keypad that you can call Klaus up to for him to interact with, and then once he does that, you can actually then interact with it yourself. Once you interact with the keypad, there's going to be a security laser that then spawns a red circle in the middle of the room. What you're going to want to do is run into the red circle and just stand there until the timer is up. If you step outside of it, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to have to progress another round and then go back into the red circle and just wait it out. You don't have to actually be looking at it. You can just stand inside there. As long as you are in the circle, you're good to go. Also note in co-op, whoever activates this step actually has to be inside of the circle. It won't work for anybody else that didn't touch the button. Once the scan completes, the glass window will drop down, revealing an ether barrel that you can then pick up and take all the way back to Ashwood. You're going to have to take Tessie back to Ashwood for this. If you use the jump pad, it'll drop it on the jump pad where you teleported over to Ashwood, so make sure you put it in Tessie. Once you're back to Ashwood, though, you're going to want to plug it into the ether generator at the top where you initially turned on the power and charge it up. You don't actually have to kill zombies for this. It's really just a time-based thing, but do protect it from the purple-eyed zombies that try and spawn in and take the timer down. Once it's complete at Ashwood, get into Tessie and drive all the way over to Blackwater Lake and repeat this exact same step there by plugging it into the power generator, charging it up, and then moving on to our final one. It's going to be at Vandor Farm. Place it inside of the power machine. As soon as it's done being charged up, you're going to want to take it to the bottom cellar of the barn house and interact with the Cortifax box in the middle of the room to open that up. Before you can finish up the last step, you're actually going to have to go back to spawn by using the jump pad and then jumping back over to farm. And on your way back, look at the 3 symbols that are atop the barn house, the barn itself, as well as the silo. Make sure you take note of those 3 symbols. They don't change in your game. They will change every other game, but while you're jumping back, just make sure you note those 3 symbols down. Return back to the cellar, and you'll notice that the Cortifax box in the middle of the room has an eyeball on one side and 3 empty sides on the other. You're going to want to interact with each of the sides until each of those 3 symbols that you noted that were on top of all 3 of the buildings on the farm are on each 3 sides of the box. Once you've locked in your 3 symbols, go ahead and interact with the eyeball, and you'll be able to pick up the Necrofluid Gauntlet. But before you can walk out of the room, you're going to have to shoot the Necrofluid Gauntlet at the wall on the green little splotches. All you have to do is shoot them and then reload, and it'll retract, pulling those green symbols off and charging up your Necrofluid Gauntlet. Once you're finished up with that, though, you are good to go. You can move on to the next step. With the Necrofluid Gauntlet out of the way, you're going to be able to progress on to the next step of the main Easter egg, which is collecting 6 different serum parts. The first one is the Horde Husk, and this is going to be the longest one you're going to have to do. This will take a little bit of setup, because in order to get the Horde Husk, you're going to first have to start by upgrading Tessie with the Abomination Beams. In order to get those Abomination Beams, you're going to have to head to the diner at exit 115 and stand in the kitchen until the cook zombie spawns in. Once the cook zombie spawns, you'll be able to kill him and pick up a freezer key that you can then use to open up the freezer, revealing the Abomination heads. Pick them up, take them back to Ashwood, and in the garage, you can upgrade Tessie with the Abomination heads just like you did for Pack-a-Punch. Once Tessie's upgraded, you want to drive around at each of the different POI in-between locations, such as the Monolithic Forest, Lost Cabins, Crashed Plane, Collapsed Tower, Grounded Ship, and Crashed Rocket, and be looking for the purple crystals. When you find one purple crystal, use the Abomination Beams to explode it. The crystals will break, revealing you some loot, but I'm pretty sure the first crystal in any single game, no matter which one you go up to, will drop you the overgrown Horde Husks as well, so just go ahead and get out of the truck, pick it up, and you'll be good to go. That'll go into your inventory. The second serum piece is the fungi, which can be found in the Blackwater cabin kitchen. All you have to do is go up to it underneath the sink. You'll find the jar there, pick it up, and it'll be in your inventory. In order to charge up the fungi, though, you'll then have to go back to Vandor Farm, and outside on the road, outside of the farm, like actually on the road where you pull up with Tessie, there's going to be one singular dead cow to the left of the sign. What you're going to want to do is get out of Tessie, place it down there, and then wait 3 rounds and grab the mushroom after it's completely evolved. You can just sit there and progress the 3 rounds. You can go do some other stuff. It doesn't matter as long as you just progress the 3 rounds and come back. The fungi will be evolved for you to pick up. The third serum part is the Ravager eyes. This one's super easy to get. All you have to do is wait until a Ravager spawns in, either on a Ravager round or later in the game, and take it to any of the blade traps that are on the map, call it in, and have the blade trap kill the Ravager. Once he dies, you'll be able to pick up the Ravager eyes off the ground. The fourth one is the mysterious limbs. What you'll need to do in order to get this is use the Abomination headlights on a Xursa to fully kill it off. Now, you won't be able to do this in one go. I would suggest getting it down to about 25% health with either a bullet weapon or a ray gun or whatever you have. Make sure it's down to about 20%. Get in Tessie, use the high beams, and the last bullet that kills the Xursa will drop you the mysterious limb. The second to last serum part here is the human bones. This one's a little bit tricky. You're going to want to grab a tomahawk and then head to the Vandor Farm barn. In the middle of the barn, above the haystack, look at this zombie and throw it at its ankle. This, again, can be a little finicky, so you kind of want to aim towards his, like, calf/ankle a little bit higher than his foot. And if you hit it correctly, it will drop the foot onto the ground. But before you can pick it up, you'll have to grab a Molotov and throw it down at the foot, and then as soon as it's burnt up, you'll be able to then pick up the human bones. The last serum piece is the Powder of the Forgotten. In order to get this, you'll have to activate Wisp T next to the mirror in the tailor shop in Ashwood, which will then open up the mirror, and then use the Necrofluid Gauntlet to shoot the mirror, and then it'll drop you the Powder of the Forgotten. Once you have all 6 of the serum parts, you can head to Yuri's lab at the Cosmodrome. Walk up to this little bottle over here in the back. You'll see all of the things that you've collected on the table, and then interact with the powder that's inside of one of the trays. And then behind them, there will be a Cipher on the wall. If you don't see the Cipher, don't freak out. Your next round is probably going to be a Ravager round, so all you have to do is progress to the next round after the Ravager round, and then the Cipher will spawn in. But once the Cipher is spawned in for you, you're going to have to decipher it. Now, this is called a Pigpen Cipher, and I'll leave a link to the translator in the description. Keep this handy because it's going to come up a couple of different times throughout this Easter egg. But once you do have this Pigpen Cipher website pulled up, again, in the description below, from the top of the code to the bottom, you're going to want to input each of these 3 different lines. So one line at a time, you're going to input these codes, and it's going to spit out a word each individual time for you. Once you've translated each of the 3 words, those are what you're going to have to interact with on the bench in front of you. So here up on screen now, I have on the left the words that can be found from the Pigpen Cipher, and then on the right, you'll have the different serums you'll have to interact with. So in my game, I had the Talus first, which translates to the ankle bone. I had fungi second, which is obviously the fungi. And number 3 for me was the conch, which was the husks. What you want to do, of course, is interact with those items on the table in that order. If you've interacted with all 3 of them correctly, the table will start to grow red, and you'll have to make a blood sacrifice. This is actually really, really hard. It's very similar to the golden armor plate step from the tomb, so I would suggest having like an insta-kill gobblegum ready, maybe some ether shrouds, a couple of monkey bombs, stuff to distract the zombies, because it's going to get very, very hectic in here quickly, and you do not regen health until the step is over. If you've managed to survive the lockdown, though, you'll be able to head on to the next step back at Ashwood. For this next step, we're going to be finding 3 keys that will unlock this locked pyramid at the top corner of Ashwood near Juggernog. This step has stumped the majority of people throughout the day, but I've been able to actually get all 9 of the different key locations so that you guys don't have to worry about running out into the storm and using all these different gobblegums in order to stay out there and look for these keys. I have all 9. I'll show you guys right now on screen. But really quickly, when you do find a key, you're going to want to use the upgraded Wonder Weapon. All you have to do is pack a punch at one time to retrieve these keys, pick them up, and each one has a mini challenge associated with it that you'll then have to take back to the original pyramid. So for example, we're going to start with the grounded ship. So this is the first location that you can find the terrapin key. There are 3 locations for it. One is on top of the ship in a window. The other one is right behind that in this blue shipping container. And the last location for the key inside of the grounded ship is going to be underneath the ship in between these 2 barrels. Like I said, use the upgraded wonder weapon to shoot it and retrieve it, and then when you pick it up, I think this one is like a really slow speed, so make sure you have Tessie near you. Get in Tessie, take it back up to the pyramid, and unlock the first set of chains. The next key can be found in the crashed rocket site in between Ashwood and the Cosmodrome. The first location for this is actually right outside of Ashwood, up on top of this cliff. The second one is located on top of the Cosmodrome building near the satellite, and the third and final one is actually on top of the crashed pylon that's actually really close to Ashwood as well. The last key location can be found in the Horde graveyard. There are 3 spots just like the other locations. The first one is in the mouth at the top of the T-Rex here. You can get it on top of this cliff. The second one is at the back of the skull at the bottom of the T-Rex. And the third one is behind the brake light of the Janus Towers tank up near exit 115. Once you've collected all 3 keys and unlocked the pyramid, a short cutscene will play. I won't ruin it for you guys, but when you spawn back in, the Wonderwaff DG2 turret will be able to be picked up. You can take it down to the garage and go ahead and upgrade Tessie. Now, for these next few steps, you can actually do these in any order. However, if you're playing in solo, I would highly recommend doing the diner step first, just because it is a lot harder to do in solo. It's going to require you to run a lot of zombies around in the middle of the round. It's going to be really tough to do. You have to manage Tessie at the beginning of this. It's a struggle. I'd recommend doing the diner step first if you're in solo. So you'll now notice that after you've unlocked and upgraded the Wonderwaff DG2 turret, that there will be lightning striking in the sky, either on an even or an odd round. I think it changes every single game. You'll notice this will happen every other round above the diner. Once you figure out whether it's an even or an odd round, what you're going to want to do is set the Wonderwaff turret up near the exit of Ashwood that's heading towards the Horde area and exit 115. Go ahead and get on the turret, shoot the clock that is now floating above the middle of Ashwood, and then quickly, and I can't stress this enough, quickly run up to the clock, shoot the clock itself with the wonder weapon, and then retract it in order to suck up some of the purple essence. Once your character's glowing purple essence and you know for a fact that the lightning is striking at the start of the round, hurry up and drive Tessie over to exit 115. Once you're there, very quickly leave Tessie by the back of the diner, run over to the clock that's floating over above the gas station, and shoot it. This will cause time to freeze and slow down for 60 seconds. You now have 60 seconds to find 3 different worker zombies that are scattered around exit 115. Now, you can only activate these zombies while you're in this slowed version of reality, so you're going to want to do these as quickly as possible. If you're in solo, you can actually manage to at least activate all 3 of these in one go, but if you can't manage to do that, you're going to have to wait until the next time lightning strikes on every other round. So what you're going to be looking for here is 3 different zombies as mentioned. The waitress is actually next to the cash register inside of the diner. In order to wake her up, and again, you have to do this when time is slowed, is just melee macchiato, punch the register, and then she'll get up and start walking around. The second is the trucker, which can be woken up by opening up the back of this truck right here. Again, you have to wait until time is slowed in order to do any of these, but you're going to want to ram Tessie into the back of this truck. Once it opens up, the trucker will then be woken up from next to the truck. And lastly, we have the mechanic, which is laying down in the garage. You're going to need Klaus in order to do this. So, again, when time slows down, you basically want to just hit all 3 of these in one 60-second go. You're not going to be able to finish the step in one go, especially in solo, but just make sure you try and wake up all 3 of these guys while you're in the slowed mode by doing the methods I showed you, and then go ahead and progress to the next lightning round. So it should be every other round, and come back to this area. Once you're about to switch to that next lightning round, though, go ahead and shoot the clock back at Ashwood once again. Suck up the purple essence like you did to start this step, and then jump pad. Go ahead and stop time again by shooting the clock with that purple shot. And when you're back in time, you're now going to have to lead each of these 3 different zombies to the lightning strikes that are on top of the roofs of the building. Lead the waitress to the top of the diner and get her to stand inside of the blue lightning. You'll know she's done this correct when she starts kind of like spazzing out and being stuck in the lightning, where the other zombies will just keep continuing to move towards you. The trucker needs to go to the top of the gas station, and the mechanic needs to go to the top of the mechanic building. Once all 3 of these zombies have been placed in the lightning, time will then come back and they'll turn into little wisps. Again, if you can't get all of these done in one go, unfortunately, you're going to have to progress to the next lightning round. So this is why I suggested doing this step first in solo, because you got to be really, really careful, and you got to be really, really swift so that you don't accidentally progress way too many rounds, end up on a way higher round than you need to going into the boss fight. And then the next step is going to be getting in Tessie and using the DG2 cannon to shoot the now floating clock tower up in the middle of Ashwood. And shoot the wonder weapon at the clock to then retrieve the bullets while sucking the aura off of the clock. If you've done this correctly, your character will have purple aura glowing around him. You'll then want to hit the jump pad and fly to the Cosmodrome and shoot one of these 2 spinning satellites. Done correctly, your character will no longer be glowing purple, and instead one of the 2 satellites will be glowing purple. If you've done that correctly, go back to Ashwood and repeat the same step of shooting the clock with Tessie, shooting it again with the Wonder Weapon, grabbing the purple aura, and then heading all the way back to the Cosmodrome to shoot the second satellite. After both of the satellites are purple, you'll notice 6 sets of flashing numbers and 2 flashing Pigpen ciphers in the laboratory underneath the satellites. This step is going to sound very confusing, but just stick with me and follow what I did on screen, and I promise you won't have that hard of a time completing this. Each computer screen will flash 3 times. First, all you want to do is ignore the numbers and pay attention to the set of 2 Pigpen ciphers that are flashing on the right. Just like you did with the earlier step for the serum, you're going to want to put each of these 6 symbols into the Cipher Solver website and translate them into individual letters. You'll now have to descramble those 6 individual letters that you found in your game into a single word. So for me personally, it was weapon, but it does change every game. I think rocket was another one, but you're going to just want to decipher whatever word you got out of those individual codes. It might take a little bit to get, but guys, trust me, like I said, weapon is one of them, rocket's one of them. I'm sure there's probably only like 3 or 4 of those. So if there's like other ones that you found, leave them in the comments below so we can help each other out. Once you do have your 6-letter word, though, you're going to want to find what number each of the letters in your word corresponds to in the alphabet, then subtract 1 from each number. Again, it sounds confusing, but let me give you the first number that I had as an example so that hopefully you can kind of understand this better. My first letter in my word was W, which is the 23rd letter of the alphabet. Subtracting 1 from 23 is 22. It's not that hard. But you're going to want to repeat that process for every single one of the letters in your word. So once you have a number that corresponds to each letter, you're going to want to look at those 6 computer screens that are flashing from left to right. Each computer screen flashing will have 3 different numbers flashing on them. From left to right, shoot each monitor in the red button on the bottom right of each screen to freeze the computer where your number is displayed. Once you've locked in all 6 of your numbers from left to right, if you've done this successfully, the rocket in the Cosmodrome area will shoot off into the sky and you can move on to the next step. Now, once you finish the Cosmodrome, we can move on to the farm step. This is actually the easiest of the 3. That's why I wanted to save this one for last. Is head to the farm with a purple charge shot like you've done with the other 2 steps. Go ahead and walk into the farm, and you'll notice that next to the dead family, there will be a clock that's stopped on either, I think it's 9, 12, or 3. Depending upon what time you are, you're going to have to look on the floor next to these families and match up the Roman numeral with the time that's on your clock. Once you've figured out which time matches the Roman numeral, go ahead and stand on it and then look at the dad that's at the back head of the table. He'll slowly turn his head to you, and when he finishes, go ahead and shoot him with a charged shot of the purple gauntlet. As soon as he's shot, there's going to be 4 different artifacts that can be found that are scattered throughout the farm. The first one is directly above you next to Stamina Up on the bed. The second one is in the garage on the table. The third one is in the bloody bathtub underneath the map by the Cortifacts box. And the fourth and final one is where the Pack-a-Punch machine is on Vandor Farm Survival. It's up in this little corner here on the haystack. Once you have all 4 of the items, you can then place them down in a circle here outside of the farm in between all 3 of these buildings, and you'll have to protect it for about, I think, a minute and a half. Now, this is extremely, extremely hard to do in solo. The majority of these steps, like I said, up to this point have been fine, but this is where you really are going to need some micromanaging here. I would highly suggest having monkey bombs, even if you have any gobblegums like insta-kills, anything to spawn a nuke in. Like, I use literally just monkey bombs and monkey bombs here. If you don't have raindrops like me, I would suggest using a cashback as well. You have like 90 seconds to hold out this area, and it ticks down very quickly. I've failed this repeatedly my first time going through it until I got my gobblegum class down, so like I said, go ahead and interact with the rituals, start it, and then throw monkey bombs as many times as you can. Try your best to try to hold out here. If you don't have any gobblegums, use a support streak, but this is going to be very, very hard if you don't have the ability to throw like 4 monkeys down and space them out for the entirety of the 120 seconds. But if you are able to hold out for the entirety of the 120 seconds, congratulations, you are now on to one of the final steps of the Easter egg. Of course, head back to Ashwood and get another purple charge from the clock like you've done before by shooting it with the DG2 turret and then collecting the aura with the gauntlet, and then head over to the Blackwater Lake. Down near the dock, you'll notice there's a floating orb. You're going to want to go ahead and interact with this and then head to the projector room. Once you're in the projector room, shoot the projector itself with a charged shot of the purple aura, and 4 different shots of Blackwater Lake will be displayed on the screen. You have to quickly take note of the order of the images that are shown to you on this display. It's different in every single game that you do this. However, the areas and the reels that you're going to be finding are in the exact same spots. One of the pictures will be the front of the cabin, one will be the back of the cabin, one will be the fishing dock at the bottom, and then the last one will be like the back area where the crafting table is. Once you've got your order, you're going to want to shoot these 4 different reels, depending upon your order. However, the locations for these reels, like I said, are in the same spot every game, even though the order that you have to shoot them in depends based on what we've shown to you on those slides. But the first reel can be found if it's the front of the building, up at the top 2nd floor, right across from the pool table, up on this ledge here. The second one is behind the building, underneath this area where it leads you down to the dock. It's under this set of stairs. The third one is above the boathouse here on this little rafter, and the last one is on the wall here inside of the area with the crafting table. If you do mess up, you'll be jump scared and you'll have to restart on the next round. So again, be careful and pay attention to which ones you're shooting, because you have to be super duper careful, because you don't want to progress too quickly on this Easter egg, especially if you're in solo. Once you've shot all projectors in the correct order, you're going to want to head to the 2nd floor of the bedroom and open up this box. You'll get an intel. However, in order to pick up what's inside of the box, you'll need to summon Klaus over here to pick up this controller or this radio. Once Klaus has the controller, though, he'll head to the back of the cabin and just stand there. Now, this is where you got to be really careful, because this will initiate the second to last step before the boss fight. I would highly recommend getting set up here for the boss fight prior to actually starting this step, because there's no way you can just stop the step and then end up on another one unless you completely fail it. I would recommend for the boss fight having gobblegums, especially if you're in solo, like Perkaholic, Raindrops, anything to get more armor. This boss fight is extremely difficult if you don't know what you're doing, and you can die very, very quickly. Even if you do know what you're doing, you're going to have to be really careful. Don't worry, I'll walk you through, but make sure you have some good gobblegums stashed for this. If you're going no gobblegums, honestly, good luck. It's really, really hard. I'm sure you could do it if you know the strategies that I'm going to show you, but just be very careful. This is where you're going to want to get set up completely for the boss fight. I'd recommend having even like the Ray Gun Mark II, the Gauntlet works too. Those are 2 fine weapons. I'm sure somebody will find some meta weapon for this that'll take down the boss very quickly, or the zombies around you, but in my game, had the Mark II as well as the Gauntlet heading into the boss fight here. But once you're ready to go ahead and activate Klaus. A white flash will come over the screen, and you'll have to drive Tessie from the cabin all the way around to Ashwood and then back. And at each of the individual mini POIs here, there will be 3 wisps that you're going to hit. I'm going to play this very, very quickly. I'm going to speed up the footage so you can see the wisps that I hit in my game. If you miss one, it'll automatically take you out of the step, and you're going to have to progress another round in order to reactivate Klaus to try this. It's not really hard, though. If you just start, go ahead towards the forest, collect the 3 wisps there, go through spawn, then you're heading up towards the collapse tower, collect those 3 wisps, cut through Ashwood, and then go ahead and head back up towards the cabins area. Once you collect all of these wisps, though, the last one that you collect will teleport you directly into the boss fight. Congratulations, you made it through probably the hardest Easter egg in the modern era of COD Zombies, but now you're on to one of the hardest boss fights in the modern era of Call of Duty Zombies. This is an absolute showdown. So the boss fight takes place inside of the pyramid, and you actually do have Tessie with you. Now, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. In co-op, you might be able to get away with kind of like running around and having teammates shooting this guy while one person is driving Tessie, but in solo, you are going to play the majority of this boss fight in Tessie. Like 95% of the time you're in here, you want to be driving Tessie around, making sure that it doesn't get destroyed. If it gets destroyed, you got to be very careful. I would recommend like throwing a monkey down, or if you have stims. This is a very, very tough boss fight, because a lot of the time you're going to have to try to repair Tessie. But so in the first initial few stages, what you're going to want to do is drive Tessie around and then ram it up into this big fucker in the middle of the room. This is how it is for the majority of the boss fight in solo. I'm so dead serious. Like, you're going to have to just continuously drive around the outskirts of this area and just try and ram it up into him. Eventually, his like mouth will open and it'll be red and he'll start spinning around. If you can, do your best to time up like a Tessie bump into the mouth, just because that sounds so sus, but just try to time it up to get the extra boost there. I think if you hit him directly, it's like 30,000 every time you hit him with Tessie. If you hit him like in a crit spot, it's like 80,000. So again, try to time it up. If you can't, you're just gonna have to keep driving around and trying to avoid his attacks. He'll be throwing things at the truck to try to stop you from obviously driving the truck around, and you just want to keep trying to avoid those. You can run over the green little plants to regenerate Tessie. They will come in at different stages of the boss fight, but if you use them up too quickly, you won't have them until the next stage. So maybe just like use a couple. If it's getting really low, then hit another one. But for the most part, just try to avoid those unless you absolutely have to. So if you keep ramming him, you'll eventually notice that he'll go into his first phase of being untouchable. During this time, what you're going to want to do is just drive around the arena. He's going to be throwing stuff at you. He's going to be just raining down lightning on you. Just keep driving around the arena until he shocks a lightning bolt that'll be standing there in the middle of the room. Go ahead and run over the lightning bolt. You'll be then charged. You can then boost up into him, and he'll fly up into the air and be stunned. At this time, this is where you want to get out of Tessie. Be careful because zombies will be running around at you in later stages. Zerso will be there, but get out of Tessie and start shooting at the critical spot in the middle of the room. I found that the Mark II did really, really well for this. Another good weapon you could actually use is the Gauntlet. It'll do damage if you shoot it up into the bottom crevice there and then pull them back. It'll do a lot of massive damage. But you really just want to be careful that the zombies don't hit you during this time, because while you can do a lot of damage to them, the zombies can get you down very, very quickly if you're not paying attention to what's going on in your surroundings. After that critical spot goes away, get back in Tessie and continue to just drive around the arena and try to ram him. Like, I'm dead serious in solo. You cannot get out of this car if you don't want to die. Like, you have to 100% be playing around Tessie. Treyarch was not lying when they said they want you to play around this wonder vehicle, especially in this boss fight. And if you're in solo, like, it is a must that you are just very, very close to Tessie and not doing anything stupid. Just continuously run up there and ram it. If you keep ramming it, eventually it'll go back into another immune phase, which at that time you just want to drive around and continue to pick up the lightning bolts and then charge into him in order to knock him out of the immune phase, and then get out of the car and shoot him as much as you possibly can, and so on and so forth. It might take a while, but eventually you'll get down to its last phase where it will now be shooting off like one taps to you. It's not like a one tap, but it'll put you down to very low health very, very quickly if you're not careful. It's like the charged shot from the DE Keeper boss fight, but not on that scale. What you're going to want to do here is actually just keep running around and trying to ram him before the charged shot gets off. If you do find a situation where it's shooting the charged shot down and it's tracing you, either try to drive away in Tessie, or honestly, my best advice would be to run to the one side of the map where there's the pillars and the little crevice here. This is where I would use an Ether Shroud, Monkeys, and just lay down on the ground and wait for that charged attack to go away, and then get back in Tessie and continue to ram him. Like, the whole boss fight, I'm so serious, is centered around ramming him, that you just basically have to wait for that charge shot to go away, wait for the ability to get back in Tessie, and continuously ram it to death. I know it's crazy, I keep hammering on it, but I'm telling you guys, in solo, it's very, very tough. Do not try to get queued. Do not try to do like little bonus damage here and there. Like, just play around Tessie, do exactly what you've seen on screen, and you'll be able to actually get this done. If you do successfully manage to take down this boss fight, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, you get a nice calling card, you get a nice skin for Dempsey, as well as some dope XP. If you enjoyed this video and you found it useful, be sure to drop a like and subscribe for more Black Ops 7 Zombies content. We're going to be coming at you with everything we can possibly find, especially in Curse Mode, coming out tomorrow. But also, I'll probably be dropping a individual breakdown for the boss fight itself, just a dedicated video on exactly what I did and walking you through it step by step, a little bit more in detail than me just blabbering on about it here, trying to help you guys get the base idea of it down. But hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to drop a like and subscribe. Have a good rest of your night. Peace.